Okay, so tonight we're going to start into an introduction on strategic brand management, which will be part of the strategic marketing diploma, which is level 7, hopefully. So those of you who don't know me, I'm Ciara Boyes. I have been lecturing since 2013 and I live in Belfast, and you're very welcome to link with me on LinkedIn if I can ever help in the future. So the awarding body for this qualification is OTHM. It's a well-respected awarding body, enjoying wide recognition across the globe. A little bit of housekeeping on this one. Prior to attempting the coursework assignments, learners must familiarise themselves with the following policies: centre specification, and this can be found at this link, quality assurance standards, and the quality policy statement. In submitting the assignment, learners must complete a statement of authenticity, confirming that the work submitted for all tasks is their own. The statement would also include the word count. Your accredited study centre will direct you. Will direct you to the appropriate software that will check the level of similarity. Most of us across the globe use turnitin.com as our choice of software. Plagiarism and collusion are treated very seriously. Plagiarism involves presenting work, excerpts, ideas, or passages for another author without appropriate referencing or attribution. Collusion occurs when 2 or more learners submit work which are so alike in ideas, content, and wording, and the structure that the similarity goes beyond what might be mere coincidence. Please familiarise yourself with malpractice and administration policy if you want further information. So we would like a professional approach to work is expected from all learners. All learners must therefore identify and acknowledge all sources, methodologies, and applications used. The learner must use appropriate referencing system to achieve this. Marks are not awarded for the use of English. However, the learner must express ideas clearly and ensure that appropriate terminology is used to convey accuracy and meaning. Recommended is using the Harvard style of referencing throughout your work. You may use appendices to support your work. However, appendices must only contain additional supporting information and must be clearly referenced in your assignment. You may also use, you may also include tables, graphs, diagrams, Gantt charts, and flow charts that support the main report, but it should be incorporated into the back of the assignment report that is submitted. Any published secondary information, such as annual reports, company literature, should be referenced in the main text of the assignment and in accordance with the Harvard referencing style. When a learner uses an organisation's information that deals with sensitive material or issues, they must seek the advice and permission from that of the organisation about its inclusion. Where confidentiality is an issue, learners are advised to anonymise their assignment report so that it cannot be attributed to that particular organisation. Learners must comply with the required word count within a margin of 10%. These rules exclude indexes, headings, tables, images, footnotes, appendices, and information contained within references and bibliographies. When an assessment task requires learners to produce presentation slides with supporting notes, the word count only applies to the supporting notes. All work must be submitted on the due date as per the centre's advice. All work must be submitted in an electronic document or via Turnitin where applicable. This should go to the tutor, centre manager, or programme director, plus 1 hard copy posted to the centre marked if required, although I don't think you are. They use a standard marking rubric for all assignments, and you can find the details at the end of your assignment document. Unless it's stated elsewhere, learners must answer all questions in the document. Okay, so that is the rules and regulations and housekeeping all organised and sorted. Now we can get on to the actual information here. So, strategic brand management. This is a very fancy name for making us aware of a company and how it works in terms of its identity, its personality, and how the marketing comes together to provide that. Okay, so a little bit about this unit. This unit aims to develop learners' understanding of the key principles that undermine managing brands and brand equity. The module enables you to devise a strategic approach to branding for the product service level consistent with the corporate brand. Learners will develop an understanding of how to do marketing from a branding perspective, and the learner will gain the skills to establish and position brand strategy and also to manage the brand so that it continues to deliver the brand promise. The learners will also learn important issues involved in building strong brands and maximizing the value of existing brands in various industries and sectors. So basically the aim is that through this module, you should be able to understand what a brand is, what brand equity is, how to manage that brand going forward, the advantages of having a strong brand, and then the other side is that it's great to have strategic brand management and marketing. However, a lot of companies do a very good start on strategic brand management. However, it does not continue in the long term. So we will look at how to establish and promote that, and then how to manage brand management. So the learning outcomes for this unit are understand the concept of brand and how brand relates to other areas of marketing, including sustainability and corporate communications. The second is understand branding models, brand equity, brand personality, corporate reputation and corporate communications and their interrelations. Now, these are the first and second learning outcomes. There is a third and fourth, which will be done in the next session. So here's your criteria for your first and second piece of your assignment. I want you just to bear this in mind. I am going to go through this before I go into the body of the information. The last few sessions I have done, I have left it to the end, but after talking to a number of students, they prefer to hear the questions at the start. It's fair enough. So you are to analyze the concept of a brand, brand elements, and brand management. What does that mean? We need to look at what a brand is. We need to look at what brand elements are and what brand management is. We want to look at the benefits of it and the disadvantages of it. And we want to look at the concept that if you don't have a strong brand, what is the outcomes that could possibly happen. Okay, that is just some information on how to answer that question. Okay, they're all about verbs. They like the verbs in these organizations, so make sure that you use the word analyze correctly. Analyze the relationship between corporate communication, corporate branding, and individual product branding. So what we want to look at is how the relationship between corporate communication and corporate branding. So if we have corporate branding that has an identity or a personality or an image, and the corporate communication is different to that, then what happens there and why would it give a mixed message to its audience or its stakeholders? And then individual product branding. So what does that mean? It means that the corporate communication and the corporate branding might be one area of the strategic brand. However, you will see then product branding. The reason for that is because individual products will be targeted at different audiences. Okay, so that's what we mean by that. So we're looking at, for example, what's a good one? Okay, well, we'll go with Apple because that's sometimes the easiest one to go with. Their corporate communication and their corporate branding will be very different to their new iPhone that is maybe aimed at the teenage year group. So their corporate communication will be professional. It will have a certain identity and personality. Their corporate branding will be, again, professional. We will talk a bit later about corporate social responsibility. However, when we're looking at maybe the branding of one product, which may be the most recent phone, I'm not technical, that has come out, and that particular audience has identified itself around the 14 to 18 mark, the same branding will not be used for the corporate branding and the corporate communication as will the individual product branding. So you can understand that if you have two audiences in front of you, and one is the corporate world and one is a 15-year-old young person, your corporate branding is going to be very different. 1.3 is evaluate the relationship between brand identity, brand image, brand positioning, and brand personality. So this is what we have to look at in terms of breaking down the brand. The brand identity, the brand image, the positioning, and the personality all have to match for the right audiences. So we need to evaluate. What does evaluate mean? We need to look at the advantages, the disadvantages. You want to look at a summary in terms of what they are. You want to read around the subjects. Who are the big authors in those areas? What doesn't work, what works, and then a conclusion. Your 1.4 is evaluate the role of corporate social responsibility and sustainability practices in branding. So we are seeing CSR on an increase within the corporate world. We are seeing that our buyers are starting to buy based on corporate social responsibility. This has been pushed by a number of different reasons: climate change, sustainable clothing, media pressure, and also organizations which want to start to look like they are providing good work environments, maybe in different parts of the world, or they are, for example, using a tree, planting a tree, or flying a plane. They will make sure that there is a certain amount of trees that will be planted in lieu of their flight. So we're seeing more and more corporate social responsibility. I suppose the big debate amongst academics is that whether it's actually corporate social responsibility or whether it is part of the brand and part of their PR machine. So, however, that's a story for another session. Okay, so your second criteria is analyze the factors that drive brand identity and brand positioning. So here we're looking at what makes up the brand identity, what areas of the other parts of the organization, external factors and internal factors make up brand identity. So if I'm sitting in here in my office and I want to produce a new mobile phone, I can't make that brand identity on my own. There has to be a number of different factors that come together. First, to create the brand identity. Second, to ensure that the brand identity is the right audience. And third, we are positioning ourselves in the right part of the industry with the right audience. And the last two is sustainability. So we talked at the start about making sure that brand identity is not just started, it's continued, and it's a long commitment. Analyze brand personality of a brand or an organization. So that is, what does the brand make you think of? So if we're talking about pipes, smoking a pipe, okay, you will have a different brand personality that of a pipe, or a very expensive pipe, or a very expensive watch, to a different brand personality of the electric scooters have recently come out. So your different brand personality, you can tell the different types of colors, different signs, different types of websites, the target customers, how many times will a customer come back to you, how do you tie the customer in, customer loyalty. There's a whole range of things there that creates a brand personality. Your 2.3 is analyze the interrelationship between brand management and corporate reputation to sustain brand equality. So that means that, why is brand management and corporate reputation combined here? So we want to tackle those in two parts of this question, and how does that sustain brand equity? So it's fine having a brand management. So for example, who was most recently in the papers? Primark. I don't know if it is available all over the world or not. However, we are here, in the UK, it would be seen as a sustainable, it has good brand management, paper bags, cheap clothing, aimed at a certain type part of the consumer. However, there was a lot of media attention around where the clothes were being made and the conditions there. So the brand management was very good. The corporate reputation was then mismanaged, I suppose, or it could have a long-term effect on the brand management. So it's sort of like one side's doing a really good job and then the other one comes in and it takes away from that. The other one is the football in Qatar. So we've seen brand management around the World Cup for such a long time, such a strong brand, sponsorships, teams, sports personalities. However, the corporate reputation has started to, and for a long time actually, has been negatively impacted by the Qatari way of building and organising and preparing for the World Cup. And I was in Doha the day that they announced that they won the World Cup. So this has substantially had a negative impact on their corporate reputation. Evaluate the models of brand equity and impact of brand equity on organisational success. So we'll look at the models that are out there and how they are able to be interpreted into an organisation. And then last on this, only these sessions, analyse how brand equity and reputation can be developed through integrated marketing programs together with a digital presence. So here I will give you the tools of a marketing program and a digital marketing plan. And what you need to do then is analyse how the brand equity and reputation can be transferred into those plans. Again, when they say analyse, we want to look at the advantages, the disadvantages, the challenges. When you use analyse, it's a good option to use either the pestle analysis and the SWOT analysis, or one or the other. Even if you don't write it into your actual answer, it's a good idea to use those type of models to see the strengths, weaknesses, opportunity and threats, or the pestle, which is external factors, political, economic, legal, etc. So that is just a little bit of information on maybe how to answer these questions. If you have any questions, I will be giving you a break and you're more than welcome to pop it in to the chat box, either directly or into the group chat. Okay, so back to basics. What is brand management? So strategic brand management is primarily utilized by companies to help their brands, products get global recognition. The term strategic signifies that the process deals with long-term plans and assets of a brand. Okay, so we want to be strategic in this, which means we want a sustainable reputation or brand management plan. On a small fact, the word brand dates back to the Old Norse, the ancient North Germanic language from which modern Scandinavian languages are derived. Brand originally referred to a piece of burning wood. Okay, so what is strategic brand management? Okay, so we're looking at brand positioning, we're looking at brand marketing, brand performance, and brand value. Now, these are great. These little images, they're all over the internet, are fantastic. So I'm going to give you a wee bit more around this in terms of strategic brand management. So branding strategies help establish a brand and promote its product in a financial marketplace. Why we have a strategic brand management and why is it important? So it provides greater appeal and differentiation to a brand. It enhances customer loyalty and retention. It increases employee engagement and alignment. It improves perceptions of product performance. It decreases vulnerability to competitive marketing actions. It accelerates trade cooperation and consumer response, and increases market communication effectiveness, promotes licensing opportunities. So what does that crucially mean? So we want to ensure that the values of the strategic planning are understood and adhered to across all departments. So what do we mean by that? We mean that the marketing department or the brand department or the communications department, if they're aware of brand awareness, that's fine. But in an organization, people is power. And if you want to have a strong strategic brand, you need to make sure that your entire team across the globe, if necessary, are aware of the values that are being aligned with the strategic planning. So if I am working in the IT department and I don't know the values and I don't know the strategic plan, then really it hasn't been communicated correctly. So we need to make sure that this is communicated across and it is a planned process, and it focuses on accomplishing the company's mission and vision. So brand positioning also includes a depiction of the various associations that the company is linked to and the explanation about the brand essence. The difficulty with brand management is it's not tangible. It is your thoughts, it's your feelings, it's your awareness. It's all from the organization's point of view, it's how you want your customers or your stakeholders to see the organization, and how to monitor that is you have to constantly engage with those stakeholders and those consumers to make sure that what we are as the organization are perpetuating, that it is being received, which is the very basics of communication. I say something, however you might interpret that or you might hear that differently. And if those are two different things, then this is not going to work. So brand management is all about planning, positioning, marketing, performance. However, it is mostly about interpretation. So if your audiences are not receiving the message that you had hoped for, then the strategic brand management needs to be relooked and reevaluated. So we can look at different types of brand in terms of the product matrix. So you'll find that organizations have lots of different products. There's brand hierarchy. So you might have a a loss leader, maybe a very expensive product that doesn't make a lot of profit, or you might have a cheaper product that might also bring in a lot of people to buy the product, but again, the profit is low. So what we call there is brand hierarchy. Where do we want the customers to focus in our products and our brands? Ultimately, it is money and financial gain. And then we want to look at our brand portfolio. So again, if you have a car company, you will look at a certain type of car aimed at me, who has 7 children, lots of dogs. You will aim your marketing campaign and your branding at me very differently than, say, a 17-year-old who has just passed their driving test. They are looking for fast, small, good on insurance. So we have to look at the portfolio across and make sure that the company branding, corporate branding, and then we talked about individual product branding. So there is a couple of different branding types, I suppose. So one would be the corporation and company brand, a product brand, and then a personal brand. So we will see people like Richard Branson. So he would have a corporate or a company brand. He will have Virgin Airways as a product brand, but he will also have a personal brand. So that is just to let you know the different types of brands there, okay? So the concept of brand. A brand is an intangible marketing or business concept that helps people identify a company, product, or individual, okay? So it is very difficult to sort of nail down brand management. The difference between corporate brands and product brands, as I have kind of described, there is some, and they should align in some capacity, but there will be some that are completely different, and often we don't know that the parent company is the same, and some who you will be able to identify across the board. A brand is the combination of properties within or outside an offering that gives it an identity and makes it distinct from others, okay? So what makes my product of a laptop different to your product as a laptop? Name, term, sign, signal, or combination that identifies the maker or seller of the product. So what are we focusing in now? Are we focusing on us as the organization to sell it? Or are we focusing on the buyer who wants to buy it? And that will change the concept of a brand, and that will also change the marketing strategy to fit in with the concept of a brand. Okay, so let me see. I've been talking for a while now. I'm going to pause to see if anyone has any questions so far. Has anybody got any questions for me? Okay, nope. Okay, so what are we going to look at here? What are the elements of a brand? Okay, a brand is represented by various intangible elements that create and formulate a visual, auditory, and olfactory brand identity, resulting in an innate, inherent brand element. So what are we looking at? One of the questions there was brand elements. What are the elements of a brand? So I've given you a few here, but really it's everything. It's everything that you come in contact with as a product buyer or a stakeholder or a targeted audience member or targeted consumer. So there's a few here. The most obvious ones would be the logo, tagline, color palette is very important. All marketing and promotional materials, letterheads, signage, messaging, and communication. So when I'm doing consultancy on this brand management or reputation management, my advice normally to small and medium businesses who wouldn't have a brand management department is that everything that your consumer or potential consumer or stakeholder comes across should have the same messaging. So this will work on smaller organizations. And what I meant by that was from the logo, from the website, from social media, from a leaflet, right through to invoicing, labeling, should all have the same brand and the same messaging and the same brand equity, the same brand personality. Okay, so the elements of a brand are all tangible representations of the brand that make up a sensory identity in the market and the minds of the customer. So this is why it's so difficult to understand strategic brand management, because it's an intangible concept delivered through tangible factors or elements. Okay, so we've put a few in there that we've already mentioned. So brand identity, brand image, brand positioning, and brand personality. Okay, so what do we mean by those? Your brand identity is who you are as an organization. Do you want to make sure that you're aligned with climate change? Do you want to be aligned with certain celebrities? Do you want to look at, for example, there is talk of different colors and how you would analyze that. And you wanted to make sure that you had a trusting or you had a visual interesting. It depends on your organization's target market, I suppose, which takes us into the brand image. So I might want to have my brand identity as this. However, once I've done my market research, that won't go so well with the brand image. So we need to move with the research that we developed, and we need to look at brand image. So what do we want to look like? What do we want people to think in their mind when they see our organization's tangible assets? Do we want to scare people? Do we want them to feel tranquil? Do we want them to feel excited? Do we want to feel innovative? Do we want them to feel hungry? So all of these feelings and thoughts are the things that we need to concentrate on. So for example, my brand identity might be selling crystals. I'll take a very simple example. And I want to make everyone know that the crystals are sourced locally, ethically, and here's the colors, okay? However, our brand image, well, that we want to project that these crystals will give you a tranquil and calm feeling. So what we're taking there is the actual product and the operations. What we want to do is we want to change that into thoughts and feelings, okay? So our brand identity may be on a TV. We're not buying a TV for TV. We're buying it because the brand image has told us that we want the HD smart TV with all of the channels, okay? So if we go back to the crystals brand positioning, well, I'm not going to position my brand around people who have no interest in crystals or spirituality, because they're not going to be interested in my brand. They're not going to be interested in my products. With the TV, we're not going to position it around maybe consumers in a certain area or location who have brand loyalty to my competitor. So we need to look at the difference in terms of market research. And then brand personality. You know, if you have a tranquil crystal brand image, then you don't want on your TV adverts or your posters a laughing cartoon, because that's going to conflict in terms of what you're trying to message, and you don't want to mix that up. In terms of your TV, you know, you're not going to go with an old-fashioned radio picture in your branding imagery, because it's taken away from the exciting new technology that's within the TV that you are trying to promote. And you're probably a large electronics company with a good reputation already, and you are positioning, you've built your brand or your identity, you've built the image of your new product, you've done your research in terms of brand positioning, and now you want to make sure that the brand personality suits the target market or the consumer market that you're aiming for. Okay, has anyone any questions on that before I go into corporate social responsibility? Are there any questions there? Okay, so those of you who might not have come across corporate social responsibility, this is where partially there has been many organizations have been told or made aware that they now have a corporate social responsibility. It could be globally, it could be locally, but more and more corporates are starting to have an element of corporate social responsibility. The cynics among us may say that it is good PR, it is good marketing, and it's good branding to have CSR. People now, consumers now, don't move so much into thinking where their products come from or what happens beyond the transport or logistics of their product. Especially now we're entering into issues with cost of living, global crisis and war, and we're coming out of a pandemic. So there is an element of this, but it does change fluidly across all industries and all brand marketing. So what are the benefits of the CSR? So we could look at winning new businesses. Or winning new business. So this is where we have now launched climate change on our plastic bottles. We are producing our new plastic bottles out of old plastic bottles. Recently, I saw reusable bags made out of plastic bottles. Now, again, the cynic in me says that if the water bottle companies were actually that concerned, then maybe they shouldn't be providing the water bottles in the first place. So, however, change is coming, I hope. But you might start to win new business. People might pick up a bottle of water because they see that it's from a recycled source. Your enhanced relationship with stakeholders. First, we have to look at who the stakeholders are. Your stakeholders are any single group of people that are involved in your organization. So often these are looked at in terms of maybe investors or boards or parent companies or large organizations involved. However, your stakeholders are every single organization that comes in contact with yours. And that means by communication, it means logistics, it means legally, it means contractually. So right down to your suppliers and your suppliers and logistics companies, these are all the areas which we need to think about as stakeholders. So if I am providing, if I'm selling crystals all over the world, and I need packaging for those crystals, and I want sustainable recycled packaging, however, the biggest and most the most effective and efficient supplier in the globe has decided that because my CSR is non-existent and they have it as a very large value within their organization, that they won't then supply to me. However, it now works the other way around, where stakeholders find out that you're maybe making a difference in terms of social responsibility. And what do we mean by social responsibility? We mean charity given, we mean ensuring that our waste is properly managed. It is that we are providing local communities with better living conditions, or gardens, green spaces. Builders now in the UK, I think that it's something up to 10% has to be a green, and there will be negotiations around children's parks, community groups, funding. So we're moving more and more towards that. However, ultimately it is all in terms of money. So the developer will initially say yes, but the developer will also say yes because the deal with the corporate responsibility included from the council that they're buying land from is still worth the profit that they will make on those developments. Attracting and retaining and maintaining a happy workforce. So there is a very different workforce coming out from post-pandemic. So I'm seeing a lot of organizations that they have not understood that values across their organization, their teams, their employees have changed. People's employees and viewpoints have changed. There is a large change in workforces, expectations, people's work-life balance. And then there is a substantial recruitment issue, especially within the UK. There are a lot of organisations who have not updated a number of these things. Corporate responsibility, wages, conditions, are now saying that they are struggling to recruit, and they're struggling to recruit because people have changed their values and their expectations from employers. So we have seen a shift in what's called the psychological contract between organisations and their employees, where it was very much tipped in the favour of the organisation over the last 100 years when industry has started. And we are now seeing a rebalance in terms of employees and them expecting more from their organisation. Media interest and good reputation. This is fairly self-explanatory. The issue with media interest and good reputation is you can control some of that, but you cannot control it all unless you are very good at what you do within the organisation. So a media story could come out of really nothing and could have a severe negative impact on your reputation. So as we talked about earlier, Primark was one that was in the news recently. There has been substantial media interest in corporate responsibility, or the lack of corporate responsibility within organisations. Whether we see a distinct trend between that and a reduction in consumers is still being analysed, but the thoughts are that it isn't having as big as an impact as people had initially thought, whether they buy less or if they have a knowledge of their corporate social responsibility, they will buy more. So we want good reputation management, and we want good, positive media interest. Access to funding opportunities. So we're seeing a big difference in investors. They are the ones holding the pen for the checks, and therefore, if they are looking for a substantial corporate responsibility within an organisation, this may work in the favour of the organisation or not. So we are seeing angel investors or investment portfolio who are starting to have CSR as one of their main attractions to organisations and their investments in organisations. We are definitely seeing it in the voluntary and community sector, where that they have to have more than their mission of the organisation as a corporate responsibility, whether that be within their own team. Organisations make sure that they are looking after and developing and caring for the well-being of their employees. So we're seeing a lot of different areas in terms of funding opportunities. Enhancing your influence in the industry. So if you are the leader in the industry, then you have the opportunity to show leadership, lead by example. So we have talked about airplanes in a very genetic form. There is a number of other areas and industries that people are taking the lead due to their corporate social responsibility. First, again, this will help with media interest, it will help with access to funding opportunities, retain or recruit, but you also are able to step ahead of your competition within your industry. So we are enhancing our influence, which then helps with our product differentiation or brand differentiation, which we will learn about a little later. Differentiating yourself from your competition. So this is similar to enhancing your influence, but it is seen as a more positive step. If I am able to provide community groups with funding as an organisation, or a builder to provide green space and play areas for the local children, then I am differing myself from my competitor. There is a possibility of saving money on energy and operating costs. So for example, we have seen a substantial change in people working from home, which has reduced, okay. So just to cover again, before we go on to the next bit, just want to go over the criteria too again. So analyze the factors that drive brand identity and brand positioning. Analyze brand personality of a brand or an organization. Analyze the interrelationship between brand management and corporate reputation to sustain brand equity. Evaluate the models of brand equity and the impact of brand equity on organizational success, and analyze how brand equity and reputation can be developed through integrated marketing programs together with digital presence. So we'll look at the factors. The second one, you will either take your own brand or your own organization or another, and you will look at and refer to some of the stuff that we talked about in the first criteria. The 2.4, we will talk about brand, some models and methods of brand equity and how that would help on organizational success and why. What I would say is, remember your introduction, the main points of your argument. Okay, so what is good, what is bad, what is positive, what is negative, and then your conclusion. Okay, make sure you reference it with statistics, good resources and sources, and use the the Oxford referencing guide, or sorry, Harvard referencing guide. So just be aware of that. Like, the basics are what I'm giving you. What you need to do is gather your evidence to ensure that you are able to prove your point. Okay. So, Keller, if I can give you one piece of good advice, it would be to read up on Keller, Professor Kevin Lane Keller. Okay. So it has to start at the bottom. Okay. So this is your awareness. This is where often brand management can go very wrong, that people do not like to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of their product or their organization. They don't also continually do it. So they might do it at the start of a journey. They might do it when there's a big change, maybe a buyout, recruitment drive, acquisitions. But it is something that if you want brand management to work and strategic brand management to work, you have to always be self-aware. Who are you? So I am dealing with two organizations at the minute. They both started 10 years ago. They thought in their head that they were completely aware of who they were, when in actual fact, when we did the exercise and the sessions again, they had lost sight of their identity, on one, so much so that they had far removed themselves from their original mission and values. So awareness is his first statement, okay? And then on the top one here, we've got imagery. So what are you? And that can be lots of different things. That can be what type of organization are you? What are your beliefs? What are your values? What's the mission of it? What is the experience of your previous stakeholders? What is your corporate responsibility? Have you got a corporate responsibility? You may or may not. Okay, so this is the imagery around how we view an organization as a consumer or a supplier or an investor, a potential investor. Performance is fairly self-explanatory. So the attribute and feature, trust, quality of service, style, design, and price. So these are the things that will affect the performance within our organization. You know, do we trust the product that will make sure, will I buy it? Will I buy it because they have given me reason, their brand has given me reason to trust? How would I find that information out? Have I bought a product before? Yes. Have I had any problems with it? No. Is it highly recommended by significant sources within the industry? Does it have a good customer loyalty, i.e. is everyone in my workplace purchased one of these products and happy with it? The quality of service is self-explanatory. Style, design, and price are all self-explanatory as well. The only one that is intangible there is trust. So all the other things are, you know, we like the design, we like the style, we think the price is fair, or it is worth, or it is an acceptable level for the product or service from the organization. The trust is a more difficult one, and something that needs further analysis. So feelings, response, what about you? You know, are you a quality? Are you credible, considerate, superior? What are we looking at there? iPhones, Apple, you know, have a huge superiority complex, and Apple users, me being one and a recent convert, do have a superiority, and they maintain that brand very well. They do that I feel that they do it in two very good ways. Brand awareness and customer loyalty, but also customer lock-in. The reason I'm saying that is because if you buy an iPhone, you will probably have an iWatch, and you will have iTunes, and you will have your emails on iCloud, and they slowly but surely, what's called customer lock-in. Microsoft were brilliant at it, absolutely fantastic. You're able to read a case study on customer lock-in and a superiority within an organization. It's a good read. So judgments, this comes back to our reputation. This comes back to negativity. This comes back to the new era of outing organizations on social media, that people are making judgments on the 120, 30 characters of tweet. And it is very difficult now to manage this. And I haven't really seen many organizations that have managed it well. And renaissance. So why? You know, does it resonate with me? Does this charity who, you know, funds cancer research, and I have had family members lost to cancer, is it something that I've experienced in my previous time? Is it something that I want to be associated with? Like, I resisted the whole iPhone until last year, and because I don't like being locked in as a customer. I didn't want to follow the crowd, so I always had different phones. I relented, and I do like the phone, I have to say. It is a much easier user system, but I know all the negative sides to owning one. I'm also not a materialistic person, so you know, I don't need the iWatch, I don't need all the other gadgets that go with it, and there's no good or bad here. It is just knowing your customer and how to target them well. There's no positive or negative to this. So this is his equity model. He feels that if you're able to base it on a good foundation of self-awareness, then you move up. You should be able to create this equity model, or it's often called an equity pyramid as well. So this is where he states that we are able to create a very good strategic brand management if we're able to manage all of these. The external elements to this is that we continue on the awareness foundation. We continue to analyze if our imagery and our performance and our feelings, judgment, and renaissance is in line with our customer focus. So that's why he has the awareness at such a good basic foundational level, because we should always be analyzing our awareness, our strengths, our weaknesses as an organizations, our opportunities, our threats, and then we should build on those going upward so that we create a sense of equilibrium, I suppose. It's a bit like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, once we satisfy the base level, we start to move through the pyramid, but we always need to go back down and through it periodically. So the commercial value that derives from customer perception of a brand name of a particular product or service, rather than from the product or service itself. So that's what we mean here. We mean that it's what the customer thinks of us, what they feel of us, what they judge on performance. So they might think that the style, the design, the price, quality of service is all good, but they've read reviews and they've broken promises to a number of customers 3 years ago. So there is that element to it. All you want to do as a with brand management is you need to look at the challenges, and you need to make sure that we overcome the challenges. We are already looking at what people might find stumbling blocks, and we try to make sure that we have the research and the strategic plan in place to try and neutralize those challenges as best we can. Obviously, as in life, not all challenges will be neutralized. However, if we're aware of it, which takes us back to the awareness at the bottom of the pyramid, then we're able to manage that going forward. So this is brand touch points. And the reason I wanted to go through this a little bit was because it's fine knowing Keller and his matrix or his model, but what does that really mean? Okay, so I've just put this image up because I want you to see where every single part of an organization is a brand touch point. People don't understand that. They do the first bit, and then, you know, some others will do the middle bit, and then they will start to fall by the wayside, coming round to the end. So where will a customer come in contact with our organization or our product or our service? So website, advertising, collateral, they will move into the actual purchase. So what have we done in the website, advertising, collateral that will provide these good, positive imagery, performance, feelings, judgments? Then again, product, service, assortment, point of purchase displays, whether that be online or not. Product performance is obviously extremely important. Parts delivery or repairs is another one there. So again, we have to look at that in 3 different stages. We'll go back to, during that part of the process, are we still maintaining the same as the start of the process? And then the post-purchase experience, which is often the issues that people have in terms of brand awareness. They're not aware of the full scale or the full matrix of brand touch point. So product quality. So we're very good at websites, extremely good at advertising. We're really good at products and services. We have excellent salespeople. We have great parts or delivery of repair service, and then the whole product falls apart. So again, we have to go back to Keller's matrix or his pyramid and look, are we still satisfying those needs to create that equilibrium? Loyalty programs, we've seen this time and time again in the big supermarkets, would be the most obvious, but we're seeing it now with airplanes, we're seeing it now with phones, we're seeing it now with parental companies. Back to iPhone, you will get, you know, money off if you buy their other products, etc. Or tie yourself into a 3-year contract. Billing, a lot of customer service and brand management falls down here. They don't put enough into this because effectively it is no longer a money maker in their eyes. It's not a profit margin. However, it is because it's an intangible profit margin. What I mean by that is that if the billing is wrong or the customer service is falling, you may, as an organization, you won't make profit, but you have the potential to lose potential customers. So this is an area where any organization I have worked with as a consultant is the area that I concentrate on the most, because to get to this period of being able to have a turnover of over £500,000 a year, they had to really do some of the first 2 steps particularly well. And what they're not doing is maintaining the longer experience by the customers because they're falling down at the last area of the partnership. Sorry. Excuse me. Okay, so here's another matrix here. Keller is one, and Medilo is another. So she suggests that we analyze our stakeholders based on power, the ability to influence our organizational strategy or project resources, and interest, how interested they are in the organization or the product. So we would do this in the voluntary and community sector quite a lot. So for example, a director likely to have high power and high interest in the organization, whereas the government would have high power to impact strategy via regulation, but potentially less interest. The same with a large competitor. So this is a really good matrix. It's often misunderstood and therefore not used to the same ability. So creating a grid map of stakeholders, this is how you would use this tool. And I'm just going to read out my notes for you here because my suggestion would be that you take notes on this. The reason is it'll fit into exactly one of your questions. So this is based on power and interest, and it allows us to identify which stakeholders are incredibly important with high power and high interest, which we would need to manage closely, investing a lot of time and resource. For example, your boss is likely to have high power to influence your work and also high interest in it being successful, or a technical external agency. Keeping these stakeholders on side and keeping them informed almost daily is a priority. However, those stakeholders with low power and low interest, for example, maybe the local community or the media, however, should not be ignored because we saw earlier in the session how they can have a significant detriment to your reputation and therefore your brand management. Should be monitored in terms of money. However, time is something that we should allocate to the local community and media, especially with our corporate responsibility. The 2 other quadrants highlight stakeholders that need to be satisfied, high power, low interest, and those that need to be kept informed, which are high interest and low power. So you can kind of see here, like I'm not going to read it out to you, the others that I use in another class, but you want to see here who are the key players, who you want to keep satisfied, who you want to keep informed. You know, there is people there that you will continually engage with daily, weekly, monthly basis, people that you will continue to engage with, but at a lower level of intensity. However, there will be an area there that if there is problems on the government, for example, that may shift in the matrix, depending on a change in policy or a change of legislation, or maybe there's a media campaign around corporate social responsibility. Okay, so my suggestion would be, I don't have time to go into this matrix or Keller, but I would strongly urge you to read up on Keller and this one and the next one before you start to plan your assignments. Okay. So this is Akers brand personality dimensions, and this is the side of intangible brand management that has been only recently developed. So this is the most used brand personality model used in marketing, which is developed by Jennifer Aiken. Her dad actually is a huge professor in marketing at the University of California and has done significant papers on branding. If you're able to come across some of his academic papers, then I would suggest, if you have time to read them, do, if it's something that you want to develop in terms of marketing and branding. So this is where we are looking at the different types. So back to the crystals, for example, you know, our brand personality might come into sincerity here, down to earth, honest, wholesome, cheerful. So, you know, when we're thinking about something like crystals and spirituality, we want to feel that we're at one with the earth. We want to feel that we're being honest, wholesome, we're getting back to our roots. However, it shouldn't, or I would hope it isn't, sad situation. So we don't ever really want our consumer groups to feel like that. What I would say on that is then you would take out of that the brand elements that we talked about earlier and how we would be able to create that brand personality. Is it colors? Is it music? Is it who we partner with? Is it our suppliers? Is it the media? Is it where we place our marketing? Is it, and I mean by that, you know, portals on websites, traditional media or traditional marketing in the right places, right locations, the right audience. There's the issue, you know, the right consumer groups, the right interest groups, and that goes across all 5 of these. So, you know, back to the very expensive watch. So if I'm paying £10,000 for a watch, I want sophistication, I want upper class, I want to walk into you know, a shop or an area that I'm going to be sold to be charming and rich and fulfilling and make me feel important and special. I am not a watch person, but that would be if I was creating a brand personality for that type of organization, that's where I would go to. So you can see there that the brand personality, she's divided into 5, and she's given some adjectives around how you would want that personality to perpetuate through society. And then we would look at what elements that we could create those. So you might have a brand personality for your whole organization. You might break it down in an individual brand. It's a very different thing. You might have an overarching excitement. So for example, an outdoors fun fair, I don't know, you know, will have the overarching excitement, and really every individual ride or experience within that will also have the same feeling, or brand personality. So we would see that right across the board. The only reason I'm using this fun fair is because I booked it for my children this weekend. So you can see there how that works once you break it down further. If I had more time, as I said, I would love to talk about this more. So please read up on this before you start your assignment as well. And don't think just where it stops in terms of describers there at the bottom, how you would then change that in to the elements of your brand and how you would use that strategically in terms of customer loyalty, in terms of right through the touch points. So you want somebody to feel excitement, the entire pendulum that we talked about there. This is a brand position and brand positioning map. I'm only going to touch on this very quickly because it is one of the areas in your questions. This is where we talked about researching and bringing us back to the awareness at the bottom of Keller. Really, brand position, I could talk about all day long with big fancy words. However, this is what it is. What do you say? How do people feel? And your brand is in the middle there. So what we don't want to happen is what we say or what we do as an organization and the feeling that we talked about here does not communicate into this one, and therefore we're positioning our brand in the wrong area. So we have to make sure that we get all the other elements of the brand management right, along with personality, to make sure that our brand position at the end of that journey or that process or that project is the right thing there. So if I saw a company that makes me want to go on a cruise, and I'm watching this and the cruise commercial is terrible, I'm not going, if I'm already interested, they've got their target market right. If their brand management is not good and they don't make me feel like I want to get on that boat, then their brand is not in the right position. Okay. The brand perception map, and it's also a positioning map, it's called as well, is basically a dot. It is used a bit, it's not used a lot, but it is used more in terms of products within your organization. So we talked earlier about you might have loss leaders in terms of you know, a flash sale on lots of electric scooters, for example, and you don't make a high profit on them. What you have done though is you've brought that consumer into your marketing guide, your newsletter maybe. They have to buy repair products off you or your partners, and so your, you know, your quality and price might be at the low end here, so here, but you have had a win on that because they've bought into your brand in the right way, and hopefully you'll be able to retain that customer, and then hopefully you will be able to there's also a customer return or a customer journey where you want to anticipate how many times that customer will come back to you. So if that customer has 4 children and lots of nieces and nephews, for example, then you might be able to continue to get repeat purchases from that. So what is the customer's journey, or what is the possibility of repeat business from them? Okay, so have a look around, read a bit around. There is a wee bit around that brand perception map. You know, again, if we were looking at a expensive Cartier watch, we'd be, you know, up here, and that's where we want to position. Same organization may want to sell cheap replicas on another forum, and they will put down here. Same organization, 2 brand positionings though. Okay, I think this is the last slide. Yeah, pretty much. So brand differentiation. Okay, so we can see here that this is a strategic position, so sustainable competitive advantage. unique value, brand, core market messaging and positioning. So these are the positions and these are the strategic actions. You might want to disrupt and amaze, you might want to be remarkable, create your niche market, communicate your differentiated advantages, or create a buzz. So this is kind of where this is the strategic position I'm in, but how do I make that happen as an organization? How do we make that happen? And that will go back to your personality. So you might not want to disrupt and amaze or create a buzz if you're a luxury jeweler. You know, you might want to communicate your differentiated advantages, be remarkable, create your niche market. So that's just a wee bit on differentiation strategy. Here we've got the customer, points of difference around the company brand and the competitor brand, and points of parity. What does that mean? It means how do we differ from the competitor's brand and customers' perception, okay? So perception, and what makes us similar, okay? So what makes me similar to my competitor's brand, and what makes me similar in the eyes of the customer, and what makes me different, and where would I want to put my brand management or my marketing resources in terms of that. So we need to look at the points of difference and the points of parity, and I would urge you to also to read up on those as well. So we've just got a little bit of just little buzzwords, you know, just to recap on some of this: brand equity, customer lifetime value. What does that mean? It means, will I retain that customer for 50 years? Will they buy a product from me when they're young, when they're, you know, old, young adult, into the workforce, into middle age, and as an older person? So what is the value? Are they going to buy one Cartier watch from me and nothing ever again? You know, so that's the type of area that you want to look at. External and internal branding we've discussed, brand loyalty we've discussed, and the brand value we've discussed. So two I've put in here that I mentioned earlier, which was Apple and Microsoft, who have managed to do a very good strategic brand management. You might not agree with the products, or you might not agree with the services, but if you analyze the brand management alone, they're very good at that. And then lastly, here is a comprehensive digital marketing strategy. So if we take the brand elements that we talked about at the start, then we looked at the Keller in terms of equity. Then we took into consideration Acker's personality. And then how do we make that happen? Okay, so we know the traditional marketing strategies in terms of advertising, sponsorship, relationships, maybe donations or community work or community foundations. So those are the traditional marketing that we want to look at. What I wanted to highlight was the digital marketing, because it has specifically stated that in your assignment brief. Okay, so a friend of mine gave this, who does a fantastic job in digital marketing. This is not my area of expertise. However, I am able as a consultant to understand the strategic aims and outcomes. I don't understand how to do it, but I leave that to the digital people. So you want to look at your marketing foundation, your CEO, mobile marketing, advertising, social media, email, web optimization, and content strategy. You can see very easily on this graph what relates to which. And I would hope by now, at the end of this session, or coming after spending the hour-and-a-half with me so far, that you could understand where they would create brand equity, where they would create brand awareness, where they would create a personality. And this is your traditional shop front, I suppose. Nowadays we still have, you know, substantial amount of traditional marketing, and there is talk of a sort of turn in consumer areas that people are starting to go back to newspapers, they're starting to go back to traditional marketing and responding better. However, that is still very much up in the air as they go towards corporate responsibility and more paperless societies. So you can see, hopefully, that every element here is all little tools of a cogs that in the machine that should then all create strategic brand management, how you want to be viewed, how you want your customer to feel, how you want your product or services to be received, what is the feelings of your customer when they come on a touch point with your organization. And these are the digital marketing strategies that you want to look at in terms of how to create those. What within SEO would you do if you wanted to be have an excitement personality? What would you want to be if you had wanted to go for sophistication? You're not going to have a bright, sparkly, pink website. You know, those are the elements that you have to look at in terms of the personality. And then are we continually creating awareness of our own image within the organization's stakeholder and external audiences. So I've given you a wee example of Tesla and Google there. They are two kind of out of sync because Tesla actually failed a wee bit at the start, but has heavily relied upon the best customer experience, which a lot of companies do focus in on one area because brand management has so many risks. And the other one is Google, which they started to humanize their search engines, and therefore they are able to create people and how they feel and how they want to feel. And that's why they started to move into humanized strategy within their online search engine. So you've done very well. I hope you're still awake. That is the first two learning outcomes, the first two criteria covered. That is really the skeleton of me highlighting what the bare bones of those answers should be. So what you need to do now is analyze and evaluate those. There is a lot of risks in strategic brand management. There can be potentially a lot of lost money if it's not done correctly. However, if it's done well, it does reap its own rewards. So think about reading up on those methodologies and models first. Look around at the organizations that you will have daily contact with your hat on around strategic brand management. And folks, that's me finished for tonight. If you need anything, I am happy to stay on for another few minutes. If not, and you want to log off, hopefully I will see you at session 2, where we will cover the second 2 outcomes of the assignment. So goodbye for now.